What's up Sega fans, it's Dan the Mega Driver here of the SEGAGuys with a short video on yet another homebrew update. This time we're talking about the latest version of Mortal Kombat Arcade Edition for the Sega Genesis and Mega Drive. The astonishing mod that was created and nurtured by Master Linkuei. So what is Mortal Kombat Arcade Edition? Well, hopefully anyone watching this channel will know what Mortal Kombat is. If not, welcome to the channel, and if you want the lowdown on the relationship between the legendary fighting series and Sega, check out our podcast that we did on the 30th anniversary of Mortal Monday. To give you a quick summary though, Mortal Kombat was a fighting game that launched in arcades in 1992 and it came home to consoles a year later on Mortal Monday. Of the several ports created, Probe Software completed the 16-bit Sega port. Like many games and ports at the time, it was done on a small ROM size, likely constrained by cost, as well as a tight deadline. It was a decent port for the time, legendary even, for the fact that, unlike the Super Nintendo version, the Sega Genesis and Mega Drive version contained a blood code that allowed all the gore and fatalities that made the arcade game famous. It wasn't perfect though, and that is where Master Linkuei has stepped in with this absolutely astonishing Arcade Edition. And when this game describes itself as Arcade Edition, it really means it. Just about everything from the arcade is here, or at least replicated to a degree within the constraints of the hardware. Let's start with the speech. Even from just watching the opening demo and the track modes, you can hear the announcer call the fighters' names when their bio is shown. This was something missing entirely from the original port of the game and is now restored in this mod. And speaking of bios, they have been completely remade based on the arcade originals. The same is true for the endings as well, and these fully featured arcade replications put the Sega port of Mortal Kombat 2 with its scrolling text absolutely to shame. Getting to those endings obviously requires a playthrough, and it's during the gameplay that most of the work that has been done is really apparent. Characters and stages have, to all intents and purposes, been completely updated. The patch notes state that every graphic made by Probe has been either redrawn or improved on, and the effect here is absolutely astounding. Stages look, feel and sound more like the arcade original, from the way that Shang Tsung moves his head to track the characters, to the added background details in some of the stages, the elevated playing field in others, and the applause from the in-game audience at the close of a round. This really does sound like the true Sega Mega Drive arcade interpretation. There's just so many extras in the details, like the clouds that are now present in the temple stage, the background details in Goro's lair are back, and the extra details on the floor of the pit stage. The attention to detail here is truly something to behold, with even the arcade font now being present at the end of each round when the scores are being tallied, and this in itself is a huge improvement over the Mega Drive original. Getting a fatality actually feels more epic now, with the big crimson text appearing on screen and the fatality announcement coming through your speakers. Character models now look so much better too, and the few weird artifacts of the original are pretty much gone completely. Most notably, Sub-Zero and Scorpion have their correct individual stances in this update, just like the arcade, and unlike the Genesis and Mega Drive original, where they were just basically palette swaps of one another. Rather than me tell you about all these differences, let me show you with a few comparisons. So from an audio and visual standpoint, this update is worlds away from the original, even down to the individual characters having updated speech direct from the arcade, such as Raiden's battle cry as he flies across the screen, which wasn't present in the original, or even redone audio like Scorpion's "Come Here," which was different in the Mega Drive original. But it isn't just the speech and the sound effects that have benefited from the audio side. Arcade Edition also includes an updated soundtrack designed to be closer in approximation to the arcade original. But worry not those who loved the original port's synth-heavy music renditions, because they were so awesome they've been retained, and now you have the option to switch between the two arrangements. And speaking of options, there is a plethora of options in this version of the game. Notably, the dip switches from the original port's dullard cheats are open by default, and it is now much clearer what each option does. Blood is also enabled from the very start, so there's no need to enter that famous ABACAD code and the startup screen. There are also new button combinations that let you reset, access a training mode, or even play as Reptile or Noob Saibot. Yes, the Arcade Edition goes even further beyond the arcade, letting you play as Reptile, who was a non-player character but was actually present in the original arcade game, or Noob Saibot, who wasn't. And for those that have truly mastered the game, you can even fight Ermac as a hidden fighter if you clear the game without using a continue. All of this has existed in this patch for a while now. There's honestly so much by the way of content and improvements that we could be here for hours talking about it. So why are we talking about it now? Well, just over a week ago, Master Linkuei moved the hosting of the patch onto his own itch.io site. In addition to that, the latest version of the patch, version 1.0c, now includes support for third-party controllers too. So those of you using your wireless 8-bit Do or Retrobit controllers are now well catered for. Links to the patch are in the description below, and the site lets you download the patch and fling Master Linkuei and the team a few quid for their efforts as a result. Overall though, this has just been an excuse to talk about this amazing patch specifically for the SEGAGuys channel. The latest update is seemingly bringing this amazing project to a conclusion, and if you haven't tried it yet, then you simply need to make sure that you do. So once again, a huge shout out to Master Linkuei and the team behind this patch, Billy Time Games, Chev Chilios, Danilo Diaz and Tiago SE. This is a truly phenomenal update to a classic game. If you have played this patch, let us know what you think in the comments below or via the SEGAGuys Discord, and if you've enjoyed this video, drop us a like and a subscribe, as that really helps the channel. And if you want to be extra mega, why not become a SEGAGuys member with a bunch of awesome perks from as little as 99p. But that's all for today. Until next time, we will see you on the Sega side.